how Overwatch 2 is changing and what the future holds for the game. Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. So what we're going to do in this video is break down an interview that Jared Neuss, the executive producer of Overwatch 2, conducted with GameSpot. This is a very detailed interview, so I would go and grab a drink. This contains insights as to the future of the game. Now we are in this new era of Overwatch 2. There were very strong statements made at BlizzCon by Aaron Keller, of course, the games director, and Walter Kong, the general manager of Overwatch franchise, in which they basically stated, like, look, we're focusing on PvP now. Kind of forget about PvE to some extent, but we're focusing on PvP, sorry, I should say. This is a renewed focus. We've now got a singular direction. This is a team where there are people who were not involved in Overwatch 1 who have now fully built things for Overwatch 2. So it's them making a statement of intent to some degree. It's like, this is our Overwatch, and this is what we're going to do with it. Forget about all that stuff from the past. Forget about 2019. Forget about that. That's no longer happening. That's long gone. This is new Overwatch. So honestly, I'm really excited for this. And I don't know whether it's just because I've been huffing on hopium, like massive quantities of hopium and copium. I should say that I'm all for this. Let's do it. Let's get stuck into this. So this is the article. It's over on GameSpot. I know it's a bit weird on the screen, but their website is horrible. It doesn't, like, when you zoom in, it really messes up the layout. So you're just going to have to take a bit of cut off. So it says how Overwatch 2 is changing and what the future holds after Hero Mode's cancellation. So let's break this bad boy down. Let's just read the whole thing. I think this is going to be really cool. There's a bit of a reset that happened earlier this year, and I think that reset really helped us to focus on the future. On May the 16th, 2023, Blizzard delivered a shocking announcement. After years of fans eagerly awaiting a story-driven PvE hero mode for Overwatch 2, a mode that the studio showcased repeatedly in its promotional material and marketed as a major pillar for the beloved game, Blizzard announced it was scrapping the idea. It's no exaggeration to say that fans reacted swiftly and negatively to the news, myself included, and I guess myself included as well. Following the announcement, there was one question that I kept coming back to. Without the inclusion of Hero Mode, what sets Overwatch 2 apart from its predecessor? It didn't make sense to me to create a new game with the 2 in the title that merely felt like a patched version of what came before. Not to mention one so similar, yet so removed from the spectacle and heart that made the first game one of my all-time favorites. You know what? That's written by by Jess Howard, who has wrote the article, and that basically sums up, I think, where we are and a lot of the previous negative reaction to the game. Because when you strip everything back, right now, it doesn't matter if you've got a new vision or a new renewed singular focus, Blizzard. This is just Overwatch with a 2 that's getting updated. And we always said, didn't we, all you had to do was update Overwatch, but no, you had these crazy plans which you couldn't deliver on, and then you didn't really communicate to us, and then you sold us the Watchpoint pack, kind of under the assumption that we would get PvE, so you had a nice launch of Overwatch 2, and then, yes, it all came falling through as Blizzard and, well, Jared Neuss and Aaron Keller and Matt from Overwatch League did a kind of podcast, and where they just said, look, no, there's no PvE. Well, we're going to do PvE story missions, but we can't do the replayable mode, which is what a lot of people, myself included, were looking for. And also, we're slicing up PvE story missions into little bite-sized things that we're basically going to sell instead of giving you a campaign. A lot of issues, right? Anyway, let's carry on. It's been nearly 6 months since that announcement, and after 6 months of wondering, 6 months of feeling my affection for the game ebb and flow as I watched the studio push head-spinning microtransaction prices alongside beautifully designed characters, I finally got the chance to ask that very question. Jess, you're speaking to my heart here. This is like I've wrote this. I finally got the chance to ask that very question to the game's executive producer. Unfortunately, I never will get those chances. Shortly before the Overwatch 2 team took center stage at BlizzCon, Jared Neuss sat down with GameSpot for an interview discussing the state of Overwatch 2 and what the future holds in store for the hero shooter. We also discussed the studio's latest hero designs, as well as the future for Overwatch universe in terms of books, television shows, and other media. Well, actually, it must be said, there is a book which is out at the moment. It's Overwatch Declassified, and apparently, by all accounts, it's very good. So if you're into lore, go and check that out. Or why don't you check out my good old chum, Hame? I think he's working on a video It may be live on his YouTube channel. It may not be. I don't know. But he's working on a video. Go and check it out. Full lore breakdown of what happens in that book. He is the lore master, the OG lore master. Okay, let's get stuck into this. So GameSpot say, without hero mode, what makes it Overwatch 2? What differentiates it from Overwatch? In your words, what do you really want people to take away as the difference, and why should they play it? Noose says, I want players to believe that Overwatch 2 is the best supported competitive live game out there. I want people to really feel that we as a development team care about their experience, that we care about them, and that we are always working to make this game as good as it can possibly be. If at the end of next year or the end of 2 years from now or whatever, that's something that people are saying, I will be thrilled. I think we've made great strides this year. I mean, we've made great strides this year, I'll say, in delivering that kind of experience. And I know that we have a long way to go. We will still make mistakes, and we will still try things that people don't love, like awesome microtransactions with awesome pricing. And that's totally fine. But yeah, that really is the goal. It's just to make a game that people believe is well supported, well loved, and that they feel is being well served. And in fact, I can go on a little bit of a rant here about microtransactions. I can't. Just take my word for it. I should find the source, but just take my word for it. There was a very like an ex World of Warcraft developer who I think then worked on StarCraft 2. Actually, was tweeting some stuff out yesterday and was saying like World of Warcraft with a $15 in-game mount that you could buy made more money than StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty, an entire game. And that was kind of the moment where Blizzard were like, yep, we're going to just do microtransactions. Forget building games. Let's build games that are vehicles to sell you cosmetics. Anyway, let's carry on. I hope that folks feel the energy that we're putting into the game and believe that we are here for them. We, as fans and players of the game, are here to serve our fans and players of the game. And I hope that they are enjoying the game as much as we are. Okay, so nothing really earth-shattering there. That's just fine. This, though, I got to play this. I'm one of the only people in the world who got to play this. Obviously, the devs played this, and people went to BlizzCon in 2019. But you could only actually get the two... Yeah, they only let you get level 1. You couldn't use these talents. They were not functional at the time. This isn't in the game anymore, so it's gone. But, you know, it's nice to see what could have been. Anyway, I digress. So, yeah, a screenshot from the scrapped hero mode. We know that. We know. It's also, this wasn't just from hero mode. This was from all of PvE was going to be supported with talents and hero progression. Earlier this year, the Overwatch 2 team faced a lot of backlash after cancelling hero mode. What was the mood in the studio after that? Did you have issues with harassment? How did you tackle that, and how are things looking now? Anytime you have a major change in what your goals are and what you're focused on, and decisions get made that fundamentally shift the approach, there's always that moment of turmoil. I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of storming, forming, and norming, but there is that moment where it is like, hey, we've made this decision. We realize that we can't deliver the experience that was promised to players in 2019, and we have a path forward. There's that adjustment period where everyone has to rally around that new path forward and change their expectations for what they're going to be focused on and working on. I think the fact that we are still deciding, dedicated, I can't even read, dedicated to bring out that story content and getting it in front of players and having the team continue to work that they've been work on what they've been doing helped a lot to ease the transition. And actually now that it's been a while, I think we're all really settling into the state of things and what we're focused on and working on. Okay, that's kind of weird, but I think what's going on here is it's like we've got PvE out of the way, we've ripped that band-aid off, we've shoved out what we had, and now the focus of the team isn't to try and patch together what was left of a hideous PvE project by all accounts. It is keep producing content for PvP, keep making game modes, keep making maps, keep making heroes, and yeah, we'll do story missions probably once a year, and that's kind of what they're settling into, it looks like. So there is clarity of direction there, which, I mean, I think the reason Jared Noose is talking about this is why he was brought on board, to look at the project and go, well, what can we deliver, what can't we deliver, and then, you know, make decisions that, you know, probably would generate the most revenue. which, you know, anyway, we have a roadmap for all of next year, which is a thing that the team really hasn't had in quite a while. So there's a bit of a reset that happened earlier this year. And I think that reset's really helped us to focus on the future, to understand what we want to do for the next 12 to 18 months. And it's great to be at a point where we can look that far ahead. Okay. So they do have a very long internal roadmap. Can you share any details about the roadmap for next year and what your plans are for compensating for not having that mode anymore? These questions are pretty good. These are the questions I would ask. Awesome. The overarching theme of next year is all about just being as responsive as we can. One of the things that we learned this year, which may sound like common sense, but I think is a pretty big shift in the way that a team develops games, is that really tightening the feedback loop between learning a thing about what players are enjoying or frustrated by, and then taking action on that and putting it into the game is critical for a game like ours that's constantly updating, that's live every day. Okay. We've made a lot of strides this year in getting better about being quick, making changes, reacting to balance issues and things like that. But we really haven't been able to move as quickly as we'd like on experimenting with new future directions for things. And so 2024 is going to be a lot about that. A lot of the event modes that we're doing are focused around how we can learn specific things about what our players like and don't like. A lot of the smaller plans that we have coming up in Season 8 and 9 are around how do we test out a specific idea and just see if people like it. What if the game was a little more like this, or what if the game was a little more like that? And then we have the opportunity to put it live, gauge player reactions, and make a decision from there. Okay, so I think this is just, you know, that's just saying, hey, we're going to react faster to things. We are maybe set up in a different way now. So if feedback does come in, or, you know, we identify a problem, we can actually fix it a bit faster than we could have done in the past. So no, that's fine. That's okay. You know, that's fine. Anyway, let's move on. So what are some of the challenges of being that reactive? What does that structure look like for interacting with fans? That's something we have to evolve, really. It's been very scrappy, I guess, is how I would put it this year. In some cases, it's a mixture of team members identifying feedback themselves, either from people that they're playing with, from the internet, from their own experiences playing the game. Everyone on the team loves Overwatch, and so they have feedback every single day in our internal feedback channels. It's a mixture of all those things, plus data. We're always looking at, are things healthy? Are they not? Because if you only ever listen to internal feedback, or you only ever listen to what the internet thinks, you'll only get a very specific view on how things actually are. So for us, it's a mixture of looking and seeing what player response is, both internal and external to the studio, and looking at our data from just understanding, hey, is this thing actually overpowered the way that people think it is? Or is this hero not being picked very often the way that people are saying? And sometimes it's true and sometimes it's not. And we just have to take all of those things, balance them together, and then figure out what, okay, so that is like, that's always been their approach from what I understand. I remember in the past, back in the days of Jeff, I think actually Jeff said that they had this sort of triangle of balance where it was what the devs think, what the community thinks, and then what the stats say, and they sort of looked at all of those different elements. Obviously with the community, that's broken down into a lot of different things. I think actually to use Jeff's terminology, I think he referred to Reddit as, so the actual Overwatch subreddit was sort of like Punch Kid. It was like the happy-go-lucky, they sort of just, you know, enjoyed Overwatch for what it was. And then the competitive subreddit was like his older brother who was like salty and they hated everything and all of that. And I guess you could like break that down even further when you start looking at different content creators, different streamers and all of that stuff. And different places like the forums. And Jeff might have said the forums actually was like Punch Kid. I don't know. Or maybe the forums were more savage. But yeah, I think that nothing is really new there. So that's fine to say that. Okay, let's move on. So he says, or he gets asked, is there a particular system that you're looking to implement so that you can get more direct player feedback? This is something we talk about a lot internally, actually. We've changed a little bit of the way that we gather feedback. So not only do we do ad hoc listening to people on social media, listening to players, listening to members of our team, we also have a few really cool tools that are related to social listening so that we can really aggregate conversations globally. For what this is AI. It's gotta be. This will be like some machine learning AI. That's like, Stylo's just moaning about money. Oh no, the prices. Oh, ban him, ban him. Anyway, let's just move on. We also do a lot of surveys and focus group type work to bring players in or and talk to players directly to understand what they think of things. If you've actually ever been part of this, reach out to me. Like, if you have ever been in one of these sessions and they haven't made you sign some horrific NDA, I really would like to know what they involve. I really would. Anyway, to validate the goals that we have for a thing against their perception of it, because it's really easy when you spend weeks and months working on a thing and you're super close to it and you feel like you know exactly how people are going to feel about it when it gets into their hands, to lose sight over the bigger picture. So doing this is more and more frequently and being a little more aggressive in what we show and how early we show, it is a shift that we've made this year, and it's a shift that we'll continue to make next year. I think there's no substitute for hands-on feedback from people who play and love our game, which this is true, right? So obviously at BlizzCon, they showed us they showed us a hero, gameplay from a hero that's in development, and we've never seen that publicly before, and they actually teased an icon for the next hero, a tank hero. They showed us concept art for another hero. So you got Space Ranger, you got Venture, and a tank hero. You know, so like they were showing a lot of work in progress stuff, which they've never done before. So you kind of do feel like, you know, they are working on stuff, which is ludicrous to say. Obviously, they're always working on stuff, but I think it's their intent to say, look, we are pushing the game forward in this direction. This is what we're building. What's the reaction going to be from the community? And also, it does help with leaks as well when you throw out this stuff earlier. But it might not help with marketing, so I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I do see that with your hero announcements. Following Mauga's announcement, Overwatch 2 immediately allowed players to try him out this weekend with a free trial period, which I did like. That was a good move. We've already seen concept art for the next two heroes. I feel like you're looping fans in on these heroes a little bit earlier than ever before. Okay, there are specific moments in Overwatch 2 from this year that I think really enforce that direction. A lot of it is just as the team has wanted, I think, to operate this way for a while and has felt a little bit slow to react in some cases. And so I think for them, it was just getting the nudge to say, no, this is what we should be doing. We should be more open. We should be more transparent. We should be more responsive when we hear things from people who are playing the game every day. I think that was innate to the team already. I think when we launched the game, it became clear that this was what we needed to do to support a free-to-play live game. And then there have been specific examples this year where the need to really be transparent and reactive have come up. And I think Lifeweaver's launch was one of those for me, where there were player concerns about how strong the hero was out of the gate. And so we very quickly took steps to address that. We were then prepared to do it again with Illari. We even saw a bit of it when Sojourn launched, or when Overwatch 2 launched, with how strong Sojourn was at certain levels of play. So yeah, just to summarize it, I think it was a combination of the team wanting to move in this direction already when I joined, even, and then just seeing how powerful it can be when you do respond to things that are happening live and when you have those tools. And so I think that it's built momentum. Every time we've been able to do it and respond to something quickly for players, it's been positive for us, and we've really felt that invigorating sense of we're delivering on the mission here. We're doing the thing that we want to do, and so yeah, it snowballed from there. Well, I mean, honestly, that's all good news. That's good. That's, you know, we want a more reactive team. We want them to make things faster, or rather change things faster, especially balance issues. You know, if something is glaringly bad or wrong, then go in and fix it. I mean, I guess it's all well and good saying stuff like that, but like, Bastion has been very strong in the game for a while, and the nerfs haven't really been too strong. Supports have been strong. They've been nerfed, but is it enough? You know, I don't know. But like, yeah, they are going to be more reactive going forward. So I think that is good for the game. I mean, I don't think anyone would say that's bad. Continue with the game's heroes. We are now at 39. Is there a cap that you foresee in the future? Are you thinking of reassessing how many heroes you add each year? I don't foresee a cap in the number of heroes that we develop. I think that what we really want is for every hero to have a unique personality, unique role to fill, and unique archetype, and to really fill a gap in the roster that exists. They need to feel like they're bringing something material, important, and impactful to the game. And I think what we're seeing in ideation on the team is that there is no end in sight to opportunities there. And lots of games have deep hero rosters, and so there's some precedent there. Yeah, League of Legends says hello. But specific to our team, I'm constantly seeing new innovative ideas. And for us, it's about how we make sure that we channel those into the most impactful thing for the game at that moment. Having a bunch of support characters added was really great this year, especially with support heroes that we were able to release. Lifeweaver is in a great spot. Illari is in a great spot. Getting back to a DPS hero and then filling out the tank roster a bit more, I think it's just going to be a net positive. You know, I really don't think Lifeweaver was a great launch. You know, like obviously he's saying he's in a great spot now, and like, yeah, I mean Lifeweaver still does a lot of healing. He's still a pretty good support. I mean, I personally don't really enjoy his gameplay, but that's just a personal thing. But I feel like he was just, because you remember the issue when he launched, he had the control issue with his primary and alternate fire. The way there was, you know, it didn't feel great, and I don't know, like I just feel like that launch was probably the worst hero launch almost in the game's history in terms of impact it created. All well and good that, you know, things have got better now. I mean, if you compare it to Illari, I think her launch was a lot better. But then again, I don't have access to their internal stats, do I? You know, this is me just reacting, going, well, I think she was a great hero launch. Yes, I like the hero way more than Lifeweaver. I just think she was way more impactful. I just think but that is debatable, but I just think she was a much better hero. Then I look at Lifeweaver and I see the, you know, people weren't really playing Lifeweaver. In fact, I'm pretty sure Lifeweaver got buffed, didn't he, after he launched, because no one was playing him. And I think even Aaron said something along those lines. Anyway, I don't know. Lifeweaver, not a great launch, in my opinion. But maybe the stats disagree. I don't know. like I can sit here going, I hate monetization, but obviously they make obscene money off skins. And I mean, I dread to think how much money's been made off this Le Seraphim thing. I mean, it's going to make me cry. Don't tell me, Blizzard. Right? A lot of the characters introduced this year. Also, I don't get any codes for that because I'm a naughty boy. Not that I want codes for it, but it's interesting, isn't it? Don't talk about having codes sent to you. Oh, no. Just pretend you've got the skin organically. Anyway, let's move on. A lot of the characters introduced this year, as well as those foreshadowed for later seasons, are all relatively younger, relatively attractive, and more humanoid, which feels a bit different from Overwatch 1 roster. Is that an intentional pivot? Well, this is an awesome topic, and it's one that I don't think we have a perfect position on yet. Yeah, it's one I don't really want to answer because I may be in a hole and I'll get wrecked. That's what he's saying there. The main goal for our heroes is to create characters that people can see themselves in, to represent a specific culture. I mean, I see myself in Hammond. What are you talking about? A specific element of the world that we live in. And I think it will be easy to only go down that road forever, to only do characters who are human and humanoid, who are relatively young and that kind of thing. You know what, actually, before we get on to what he says here, the tank hero that's teased looks like a turtle or something. I don't know. But I was always, I mean, again, this is the old Overwatch team, but they always said to me Hammond was as far as they were willing to go. Like, that was way out there, and they would never go past Hammond in terms of, like, what a hero could be. But maybe this new sort of turtle tank thing, whatever it might be, Soundquake maybe, who knows, could be something like that. You're really cool. Anyway, and so the interesting challenge for us is to keep introducing characters that are uniquely Overwatch in a way that other games really might not be willing to go to. See, I knew we would talk about Wrecking Ball. Wrecking Ball is, I think, a good example. I think Winston's a great example of that, right? Super intelligent space ape. It's not an archetype in a lot of games, and Winston's great, and Winston is so fundamentally Overwatch that I can't imagine the game without him. And so for us, it needs to be a mix of creating characters that people can directly see themselves in, who feel representative of the world that we live in and the future version of that we want to portray, while also just having fun and creating characters that resonate with people that are maybe a little bit different and maybe not human at all. So I think he's setting us up, right, for, yeah, this tank hero after Space Ranger is not a human. It's a thing. We don't know what it's going to be, but it's not a human. I think that's got to be what that is. So, yeah, we don't have a perfect approach to this yet. I do think it's always going to be a balancing act. I think right now we're really trying to lean into the characters that feel resonant with our player base. But we have a lot of years to go, and there's no end in sight to how many heroes we can make. And so I imagine you'll see some pretty wild stuff in the future. But yeah, like the thing is, guys, they would never stop making heroes because, as we all know, it's the highest engagement thing in the game. They're never, ever going to stop making heroes so long as that's the backbone of the monetization of the game. Like that will always be precedent. And even if it wasn't, it would always be a precedent because it is the strongest element of Overwatch is the heroes. There's a famous thing with Bobby Kotick, and the reason Overwatch exists is because when Jeff and that team from Titan were like down in the doldrums and they didn't have anything, you know, the game was basically cancelled. Bobby Kotick calls them into their office. I mean, it never happened this way, but let's just roll with it. Calls them into their office and goes, oi, show me what you've got. Like, we've wasted loads of money developing this. And they're gone, hey, here's what we got. And then he looked at the screen and went, oh, yeah, these heroes look really interesting. Just make a game based off heroes. And then they just used all the assets they had and built Overwatch. So, yeah, heroes were always integral to this game's, just the game in general. Okay, in talking to other fans, it's that narrative and the characters that a lot of people really love about the game. And it's explored in comics, animated shorts, and even experiences like Loverwatch earlier this year. But have you thought about other ways to expand that effort? Have you thought about doing the whole Netflix animated series thing like Cyberpunk or Castlevania? Which, by the way, both of these are incredible. Castlevania definitely is the best one. I mean, maybe we could throw Arcane in. I don't know. Honestly, Castlevania is so good. I love Castlevania. It's such a great series. Anyway, if you could imagine literally any idea for what we could do with this world, I guarantee we've discussed it. For us, there is no ceiling on the directions that we could go with these characters in this world. Right now, we're focused on is just continuing to iterate on Overwatch 2 and making Overwatch 2 the best game. Okay, but as you saw earlier this year, we are already experimenting with different ways to tell stories and different expressions of heroes. We're going to continue to experiment next year. I think Loverwatch this year was a great example of us really pushing the boundaries and trying something different. And you'll see going into next year that we're going to try more new stuff. And hopefully at some point soon, we'll get to talk more about what that stuff looks like. But I don't really see an end in sight to the number of things that we can do with the world. And we have a ton of great ideas. So yeah, obviously it was not about to go, yeah, we've got a movie in development and there's also a Netflix series, if they even have, which I don't think they have. But if they did, you know, they're not, that just ain't going to happen. In an interview like this, it would be pretty funny if it did. Anyway, we've also seen Overwatch 2 embrace a lot of crossovers. We had One Punch Man, Diablo 4, and now we have Le Seraphim. What led to seeking out these partnerships? Well, Le Seraphim was money. One Punch Man, money. Diablo, we were forced to do it by Bobby. What led to seeking out these partnerships? What do you think it brings to the game? Money. So I think what it brings is just another thing that we can use to express our fandom of things. If I want to say it in a nerdy way, these collaborations are largely born out of things that our team loves. And when we look at potential future collaborations, it's always through the lens of, is this a good fit for the people working on it, the audience that's going to be hopefully enjoying it, and the community at large? With One Punch Man, we're all huge fans of One Punch Man. We have a lot of anime fans on the team and a lot of K-pop fans on the team. So being able to collaborate with the Seraphim, it was just huge for the people working on it. And we know that there's a big group of folks who play the game who are also very much into it. So for us, it just brings another thing that we can celebrate as part of the game that we all love. Yeah. So lastly, I'd like to talk about metrics. Did you notice any influx or massive active player count going up from having the game on Steam? Well, I mean, no, because we can see the Steam stats. But we know that Steam is like literally fractions of the audience. Like it's hardly anything on PC anyway. Obviously on console as well. They're their own platforms, but whatever. So we did see a ton of new players coming on Steam, which was great. And not only are people jumping in for the first time on Steam, but people are coming back and making Steam their primary platform. We also have people who are moving from Battle.net to Steam or using both at the same time. Both at the same time is slightly insane, I must say, but whatever. One of the things that I personally love about multi-platform games like this, but as specifically, is just that the flexibility is really nice, and it's been really nice to see people come in, but then also move around the ecosystems. Yeah, I mean, he's not going to say, well, I thought the Steam launch was underwhelming and I thought we'd get more players, but he's just going to say what he said there, you know, playing it safe. Anyway, how does your active player count look for Overwatch? Well, I mean, this is, I will be very surprised if this gets answered. Compared to Overwatch 1, have you noticed a difference in the type of players who are playing? Again, these are questions that I would ask them, and they would just not even, they wouldn't even, well, I wouldn't even be in a position to ask the questions, so whatever. Good job, GameSpot. The gist is that the game is doing really well. The audience has grown significantly, and in particular, the cool thing there, and I think we've talked about this a bit in the past, is that we have a really healthy mix of people who've been playing Overwatch for a long time and brand new players, which was the goal of going free to play and expanding it on multiple different platforms. Hang on, the goal of going free to play was to try and save Overwatch League. So in terms of game population, player health, and active engagement, we're really happy with where we are. And obviously, every game like ours just wants to grow, and grow. And so that continues to be the goal. Okay. Then the interview's been edited for clarity and brevity. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, what do we think about that? Well, I actually think that was a pretty decent interview, to be honest. There wasn't really any bombshells in that, I don't think. But again, it gets behind this. It gives us a little bit of a vision into what the team are currently doing with Overwatch and the sort of new direction that they've got, which isn't really a new direction, which is the direction they should have had back in 2017. But instead, they were working on Overwatch 2 and messing about with Overwatch League. That would have been the play, to be honest. But it's like, okay, we've been through a lot of turmoil. We're now at the other side of it. This year was all about getting a plan in motion for us to build upon. And like he says at the end of that interview, grow, 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 grow. That's what live service games want to do. And this has happened to live service games. You know, you look at Apex Legends. They launched, yeah, they had a big spike when they launched, but then they did slowly dwindle away. But now they build upon the game year on year on year. It gets bigger, it gets bigger, it gets bigger. And that's what I think they're trying to do with Overwatch. They knew they had this transitional year that they had to get out of the way. Of course, I have covered it in depth on this channel, and I've got a lot of opinions on what they've done. You know, and I don't agree with a lot of the ways they've handled stuff. I am being very generous and throwing this all back onto Bobby Kotick and Activision Blizzard, forcing them into positions they didn't want to be in. Now, though, it's a different ownership group, right? They're owned by Microsoft, and from what we understand, Blizzard is going back to just being its own studio, so Blizzard can just do Blizzard things. So, yeah, we'll get to see how things change now, because this is a moment of change. Now, things will only really start kicking in, I think, in January. This is when Bobby Kotick is totally gone, and that's probably when a lot of the transitional stuff will either start or is maybe not getting wrapped up, because maybe the time frames are still too short. I still expect it to be a couple of years before we see a fully, you know, this is what Blizzard now looks like under Microsoft. But I don't know. I do think that the future for Overwatch is bright. I do think it is bright. I definitely feel better than I did partway through this year, when I felt like they have just trashed this game, and the way back is going to be difficult. But they do seem to be making the right decisions. They're definitely making the right noises. And so, I don't know. It would be very interesting to see where the game is in a year's time, won't it? Okay, everybody, thank you for listening and watching to the video. If you enjoyed this, then do drop a like, subscribe to the channel. And also, thank you to the people that have been dropping super thanks on YouTube. I always forget that even exists, but it pops up and I'm like, whoa, what's this? So thank you for that. Awesome. Any support, love it. As ever, I'm just here to make videos for you guys. So watching the videos is more than enough support. Thank you, everybody, and I'll catch you on the next one. See you soon.